Forever Young, the Kabbalah of Aging. Now, nobody likes aging. Human beings from the beginning of time and history have done everything possible to stunt the wrinkles, the mortality, whether the pharaohs of old, where they literally would bury their brides, make sure that when they died, their brides and their children and families would be buried with them. They were convinced that that was some secret to immortality. Or cryogenic freezing of our time, the search for the fountain of youth. It can take the form of the cosmetic industry of botox and all that comes with that. We've been desperately always looking for ways, can we slow the aging process? We all know we're mortal. We all know that as we're born, we die at some point. Can that in any way be slowed down? Has anyone mastered it? I don't think so, not yet anyway. But it's interesting, the pursuit continues in one way or another, which we'll talk about in a moment. Why do we pursue that? Why don't we just accept? But I will go a step deeper. There are actually philosophies and schools of thought that say that life is driven by fear, and above all, the fear of death. Not necessarily in an active and aggressive way, but overall, death is one of the underlying undercurrents that drives people. I'm not saying everybody thinks that way, but especially some Far Eastern philosophies and schools of thought definitely believe that. And for them, one of the things is, how do you conquer that fear? Either by understanding life differently. We'll talk about those options. But it's interesting to say that, because is that indeed true? That the fear of the end, it's not death per se, dying, the death, but the idea that you will not be here forever. And all that you've invested in, and all the significance that you consider your life to be, will come one day to an end. Will you even be remembered? Will you make a mark in this world? And perhaps that's a very profound fear. That means that everything I did is temporary. So at the end of the day, it's like, I don't want to call it a game, but it's like, okay, I went through the motions, I did my thing. And there are actually people, I've heard this from so many, who've told me, life, at the end of the day we die. What difference if I was a better person, I was not such a good person? Do I have to sacrifice myself for relationships, for virtues, for values? What difference does it really make? So it also creates a certain subtle, if not maybe even more than subtle, overt sense of resignation, fatalism, complacency, all those things that do not really lend themselves to cause a person to be driven, to be passionate. But we do see that we want to be driven, we want to be passionate, and we want to believe and feel that if I do an act right now, it will have an impact, not just now, but forever. So all this goes into the pot of the discussion. So why is it that we fear? It could very well be we fear the end because it will demonstrate that even the beginning was never that necessary. You may recall back when we did the program on birth, the idea, are you really significant? Do you really matter? Not just to your friends and family, but on a cosmic level. If you were never born, would the world be different in any way? Are you indispensable? And if the answer is no, so then death just reflects and expresses that point. At the end of the day, you will see that you're dispensable. The cynics like to say that in certain tombstones, it says, here lies a man or a woman that thought they were indispensable. And in many ways, it also justifies our lack of productivity or our lack of ambition or our lack of success. We could say, hey, what difference does it make? So this person worked a lot harder than me, and where'd they end up? The same place I ended up. So I want to address that. And of course, it touches upon the very nature of what aging is all about and what life is really all about. So why do we try to slow down the process? Because as long as we're in the middle of the party, why stop it? Why should we turn into pumpkins at midnight in the Cinderella story? If we can stop it, if we can control our wrinkles, if we can control our cheeks, if we can control other parts of our body to look young and vibrant, it makes a person feel more confident, more self-esteem. People like me. I look impressive. Even though I'm 60, I look like I'm 30. Now, this is a compliment for people. And God bless everybody. But let me ask you this. How much is that built on superficiality? And what happens at some point where you can't stop the process? You're 90 years old. Yes, maybe you can control the wrinkles if you have enough money, and your nose jobs or liposuction or botox. Even then, sometimes you look at people, they look grotesque, to be very blunt. Yes, they don't have the wrinkles, but their face, they smile, you see, looks plastic. Looks like something's wrong. But they'd rather be able to at least look in the mirror and say, who's the prettiest one of them all? And I'm not here to criticize the industry or people. I understand the drive. We want to be liked. We want to look good. We want to look young. But where are the values, for instance, of wisdom and experience? The older you get, the more wisdom and experience you have by definition. Even though it does say, an interesting statement of the Talmud, that the fools, as they get older, they become more foolish. The wise, as they get older, they become wiser, like vintage wine. But nevertheless, a person going through life, we know ideas, more eternal ideas, values, experience. That's not truly valued in our society, let's be honest. Older people are either mandatory retirement or semi-retirement. And look down, move off the center of the stage. You had your day. Now we're moving in. So there's much to be said about youthful exuberance, youthful energy, and that drive where you may not have that when you get older. But what about the value of actual experience and wisdom? In the Torah, in the Bible, there's an expression, ask your father and he will tell you. Ask your grandfather and he will relate to you. The idea of learning through the trial and error of those that preceded us, does that have any value to anybody? So if you look at it in society, if you talk about a superficial life, yes, superficiality drives your life. It makes total sense. Whatever you can do to slow down the physical aging, so be it. But let me tell you what the mystics say. The soul never ages. You know why? Because the soul was not the subject to time and space as we know it. So would you rather have an old soul and a young body, or a young soul and an old body? So we know the story of the portrait of Dorian Gray, the classic, where he magically finds a way to a painting ages instead of him, makes a deal with the devil, so the aging process is projected onto the painting and he remains young. And as a result, he becomes a true hedonist, selfish narcissist, and all that comes with, finally, he's so curious to see what happened to his painting. In other words, what he really looks like. He goes up to the attic and sees it, and it's so ugly because all his crimes and all his wrinkles and everything came to bear this ugly old man, or dirty old man. He goes ahead and cuts the painting, and of course, in the process, the deal broken, and he dies because the aging goes back to him, and the painting remains the young Dorian Gray. So, are we all ready to sell our souls in that fashion? Don't answer so quickly, because when push comes to shove, some people would do things that would be even appalling to ourselves. My point here is not to drive that point home. My point is to talk about another perspective, and that perspective is the soul. When you see soul matters as priority and the body as the vehicle to your soul, everything changes. Yes, a body should be beautiful. A body should be vibrant. A body should be full of zest and full of passion and full of energy. But it's at the end of the day a vehicle. It's a car filled with gas. Maybe it's a great car. Unfortunately, we live in a society that worships the body more than the soul. When the soul is who you are, and the soul does not age and does not die. The soul is expressed, and this is not a religious soul. We're talking about the soul as expressed in your value systems, the eternal values that you hold on to, your love, truths, transcendence, the things that are not subject to mortality, to time and space as we know it. And the things that you do with your soul live on forever. Why the pharaohs of old or modern day pharaohs have not come to understand that, I cannot tell you. But because the distraction, I would say the seduction of the body and the physical realities around us are so powerful, they hold us in their clutches, in their tentacles, we forget the most important thing. If I share with you now something that will touch you, not just now, and you'll share it with someone else, and it will touch you forever, you and I are bonded forever. Yes, we may both die at some point, But that thought touched you. You touched others. It may be your children, it may be your students, it may be your colleagues, it may be your friends. That's how things are last. Anything that lasts in history, the immortality in our lives, is always based on spiritual values, because spirit is not subject to the mortality of the body. Now, we should always look young. We should always feel young. We should always experience youth. But that's one part of the story. That's you're keeping your car, your vehicle, your instruments, tool chest upgraded, updated. So you have all the latest gadgets. But what happens if the soul inside feels aged? If you feel depressed, demoralized, not driven? So what I want to tell you is like this: the secret to being forever young: find yourself eternal values. It could be as simple as committing every day to helping one person. It could be sending out a text, an email, calling, sharing a kind word, being charitable, sharing your experiences. These are the things that last forever. They last forever. So someone asked the question, what difference does it make? We're all going to be buried in the same 6 feet under, and we're all going to die. What difference does it make if I'm a better person or a worse person, if I invest a little more, a little less? You know, what difference does it make? It makes no difference. So yeah, what would you tell your child? What would you tell yourself? When asked that question, so usually the answer is to be it's just the right thing to do. It makes you feel good. That's the answer. Is that a satisfactory answer? And let's say I could figure out that I feel good even if I'm not a kind person, or I'm able to kill my conscience or my guilt or my shame. Is that enough answer for a person to spend their lives committed to helping another and not just being narcissistic and parasitical and selfish? The only answer, and some people say it feels right. I feel good when I do good. When I don't do good, I don't feel so good. Okay, I think that can work for some. The real answer is, you know why? The good deed you do does not die. It lives on forever. As the mystics, the Kabbalists, the Hasidic masters put it, every time you do a good deed, any form, from the simplest to the complex, it releases energy. We know today matter and energy are interchangeable. You cannot destroy anything in this world. You take a piece of wood, you put it in a fire. Yeah, the wood might no longer be in the shape of wood, but the energy that it released. And that energy gets dissipated and it's somewhere in the cosmos, somewhere in space. When we do a good deed, it releases an energy. And that energy never dies. And if you did it, that energy becomes part of your history, part of your narrative. That is why we can talk about people who lived thousands of years ago, and we remember like their father or mother like they are here today, because it's not the body that you are holding on to, it's their soul. They actually achieved immortality, and you and I can do the same. If you live a life dedicated to yourself, as great as you are, as talented as you are, as driven as you are, as youthful as you are, it only goes to some point. Everything in existence is finite, is mortal, is limited. However, when you dedicate yourself to a cause that is beyond you, and if it's an eternal cause, then you become an extension, a piece of eternity. Because you are not about you, you are now a channel, channeling eternal elements into existence. That makes it all the worthwhile. Botox you can buy. You can buy different cosmetics. You can try all kinds of tricks. This doesn't cost any money. And it's a secret to the fountain of youth. Yes, to being forever young. I have seen people 10 years old, 15 years old. They're like aged souls. You talk to them, depressed, down, I have no reason to live. And I've seen 90-year-olds with a sparkle in the eye. And though they may know that they're not going to live forever, but their eyes are alive. And what they convey is alive. And it's a message. It's so interesting. So is it age that makes the difference? Or it's attitude that makes the difference? I want to wish all of you, I want to wish myself, every one of us, we can experience eternal, immortal life. But you need to connect to an immortal value, to an immortal cause, to something that lives on beyond you and I. But it's very difficult because we are seduced. We are distracted. It's very easy. You just see something tempts you. Right now, you can be listening to this and even be resonating with you But if something distracts you, you're off. We're all off. Attention spans, how long do they last? So that's the only request, that's the only price you have to pay, that you're ready to commit to something of that nature. It's not as difficult as you may think. And that is the Kabbalah of aging. Because what you're doing is revealing the spiritual energy that you contain. And I'll tell you something more. When you do something of that nature, something kind, when you're virtuous, when you so-called give up your own selfish, immediate pleasure for some greater cause, it affects even the immediate. It affects even your body. There's something you see about people, they have that spunk. They may be older physically, but you see something about them. There's a certain vibrancy that continues on. And unfortunately, very often you don't see that even in younger people. Why is there a vibrancy? Because what's controlling their lives is their spirit, is their values, is their beliefs, their vision. Their vision. This, my friends, is the secret to immortality. So I wish us all the ability to achieve exactly that. You have everything you need. You don't need to purchase anything. It's free. It's a soul beating right now inside of you, just asking for you to pay attention to it. Speak to it. Let it speak to you. Nurture it. It will nurture you in return. And it comes down to finding something that's not about you. Do something not about yourself, and you become the greatest person possible. Isn't that an interesting paradox? Simon Jacobson here, Meaningful Live, every Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. But this can be seen anywhere in the world. It will be archived. Share it, like it. It's on all the platforms. It's always an honor, a great honor. I don't know all of you. You see me, I don't see you yet. I'm sure there'll be technology. But we know each other soulfully, and that's where you really want to have that knowledge. That's where we connect, intersect. So it's a great honor, and it's a great pleasure. I don't find anything greater than being able to cross-pollinate in that way. Share, like, as I said, give me your feedback, thoughts, ideas. Everyone have a wonderful day. Stay healthy, stay strong. We will get through this pandemic. And one of the key ways is to connect to your soul. Your soul needs you, and you need it. Be well, my friends. Thank you so much.